What is unbound consciousness? On occasion, I'll see a comment under one of my videos or somewhere else saying, if you want to experience unbound consciousness, just learn this type of meditation or that type of meditation. And it's often a sort of branded type of meditation, but it doesn't really matter what type of meditation. The idea that through simply meditating, you're already experiencing unbound consciousness really misses the point of what I mean by unbound consciousness. So the burden's on me to actually explain what that is and how it differs from meditative states. So I personally learned transcendental meditation many years ago and did it for 4 or 5 years before awakening. It didn't directly lead to awakening, but I think it calmed the mind enough that I could start to properly do powerful self-inquiry. But even then, I can't really know what would have happened had I done self-inquiry without the meditation background. What I can tell you is meditation for me did calm my mind. It definitely led me to states of consciousness that were different than the usual state of consciousness, that were far more relaxed, more peaceful, more disengaged, more quiet. It definitely quieted the mind. But that is not the same thing as experiencing consciousness which is unbound by identity. That requires a significant shift in identity. It requires what you take yourself to be to shift significantly. So for me, it was the kind of thing where for several years through meditation, I had believed I had experienced pure consciousness or transcendental states, and to some degree I had. But what was there the whole time, which I was completely unaware of, was the sense of being a meditator. The sense of being the one doing something to experience consciousness or unbound consciousness or changes in consciousness. The identity structure that felt dualistic inside consciousness, both during meditation and most importantly outside of meditation, was completely intact. I hadn't disrupted that at all. So you can see why it can appear as if through meditation, by calming the mind, calming the thoughts, even finding states where there seems to be no content for periods of time during meditation, you can believe that's the same thing as awakening. It can seem like truly unbound consciousness, or you can convince yourself of it, but it's only going to be the idea of unbound consciousness. When identity literally shifts, it's unmistakable. It's not subtle. Now, after identity shifts and you are experiencing unbound consciousness, you know damn well it's not a meditative state. You realize what you were taking yourself to be was not true. It was a very small version of what's actually real. And this isn't an understanding. You can learn this, you can understand what I'm saying, and not have the experience. This is experiential or nothing else. It has to be experiential. You have to know this. It has to be undeniable, self-validating, more real than real, to be awakening, to be the first step of realization. So the reason I say this is, if you're interested in awakening, if you really are interested in getting to the root of identity, getting to the root of the nature of what reality is all about, what you're all about, what phenomena are, then believing that meditating for a couple hours a day and only having that experience of calm mind during meditation isn't going to get you there. It's important to realize that. Now, I shouldn't say it can never get you there, because this can happen in many different ways. But the key is it has to become an investigation of the nature of identity itself. The nature of identity as it's bound into thoughts and structured in consciousness. If you never directly explore that, it's very easy to remain mind identified, even when you learn to calm the mind considerably. You can meditate for decades and never really even understand or get the instinct of what awakening is. So again, once this shift in identity has occurred, it's not just that you have access to unbound consciousness or know what it is or can meditate yourself into it. It's experiencing your identity as unbound consciousness. And even then, identity doesn't make a lot of sense. It's not like you're walking around going, oh, I'm unbound consciousness. You feel it in everything. Everything feels like consciousness. In a sense, everything is consciousness, but you may not call it consciousness. It may just be a fluidity of life energy. You feel completely fluid with the environment, and the environment feels fluid with you. And you see what the true meditative state is, that it's not a state, it's always here. There's something that's always meditating. and you have direct access to it. That's what unbound consciousness is. And from there on, it gets easier and easier to enter a state of true samadhi, unbound consciousness, primary to all experience, as the source of all experience. So I would encourage anyone who meditates and believes that they experience unbound consciousness or pure consciousness through meditation, but has never had a significant shift in their identity and has never really experienced that outside of meditation, but wants to, I would encourage them to start some form of self-inquiry or watch the playlist on basics of awakening and awakening approaches if you're interested in this. If you're happy with meditation practice and it's relaxing and calms the mind and your life is good, then no worries. But if suffering is there and you feel like you really want to get to the root of suffering, you want to start this journey down the rabbit hole in earnest, I would recommend augmenting your meditation practice with some sort of self-inquiry or inquiry practice, or inquiry into the nature of thought and consciousness in an active way, or perhaps even use a koan. That's all I've got for today.